A little while back I did a video covering the Phanteks Halos RGB fan frame, and I noted that it was a solid way to add RGB flavor to your build without having to go and buy RGB fans. Now there were some caveats to this. You did need to have either an Asus Gigabyte or MSI motherboard with an RGB header, which happens to be 12 volts, or you had to have a Phanteks RGB capable case, also with the same kind of connector. If you didn't have that, this wasn't going to work for you, and Phanteks never released a controller for their original RGB lineup. They've gone and updated their RGB lineup, and it's now digital, which means it's addressable, which means the RGB lighting effects are better. The LEDs, I believe, are a little more vivid, and overall the package just is much nicer. But they've also gone and included an actual controller so that if you don't have the ability to connect it directly, you can still go ahead and use it. Because while they have updated the product and made it addressable, it's created a whole different set of compatibility issues. For instance, my Asus motherboard back there does not have an addressable RGB header on it, which is what's required. We'll get into that more here in a minute. Because today's video, we are going to take a look at both this, the RGB, the Phanteks Digital RGB Starter Kit, and the Halos Lux Digital RGB fan frame. So this is an update to the original Halos lineup, and much like their new LED stuff, it's addressable. There's more LEDs on the actual ring, and it just works a whole lot better. And I just realized there's a fan going in the background. So, apologies for that. So first off, this is a really nice kit. This digital starter kit, it includes everything you need to get started. I'm gonna go ahead and open it up. You've got 2 LED strips. You have the actual hub that the products connect to. And then this guy, this is the really important piece. This is a controller. This allows you to actually control the LED effects without having to use software. And there's some basic effects in there. There's nothing too spectacular. And then underneath this shell, there are some extra peripherals that you can use. They're basically there to connect it to the hub, to the controller, and to an addressable RGB header if you have one. Halos, this is pretty much the same as the last Halos Lux box that I looked at, so I'm not going to go through all the fancy shots of it. It's pretty standard stuff. Halos ring, the radiator screws if you want to attach it to a radiator fan, and then standard screws to attach. And then, of course, sleeved cabling and another addressable RGB header, because again, this is addressable RGB, and that opens up a whole new set of possibilities. So we're going to go ahead and get it connected. I'm going to keep the old RGB stuff. I'm going to use them in a different way, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a moment. So just stay tuned. So on the left is the new digital RGB, and this strip does not want to cooperate, but you can get the idea. It definitely is a different kind of light. They're both bright, and that's pretty easy to see. In fact, let me shut this off. The camera doesn't do a great justice in showing how bright it is. But on the right is the original Halos and LED strip. On the left is the digital Halos and digital RGB switch now, or digital RGB frame, I should say. And as you can see, one of the big keys is the ability to have a multitude of colors. Now, there is a controller, it's right here, and it's got 3 buttons on it. So it doesn't have a whole lot of range because of where it's at inside of the case, but it has 3 buttons on it. Obviously for people, no, well, it's not working. Oh, there we go. Don't know what happened there, but now it's working. So I'll have to figure that out later. Maybe something was getting pinched. See, we've got speed, which is the traditional RGB effect. And of course it'll stop. So 1, 2, 3, speeds. You've got colors, you can make it different colors. In fact, turn this around so you can get a better view. And just by doing this, you can see just how many more LEDs there are. So again, same thing. You can do different variations of colors with lighting effects. And then straight back to the RGB. Then there's a mode, and this is a static color. As you can see, this is the faulty Halos that I received. And so this, clicking the speed, will make it kind of do a breathing effect. So you got different colors. You do have a white, which is nice. It's not always responsive. This isn't the greatest controller. I do think that there's room for improvement there. See, we have a different kind of effect there. Different colors, different speeds. And then we've got this. And then right back to the rainbow. So there's a few effects, there's a few colors, there's nothing too terribly fancy about it. And again, not really certain that they're that much brighter. They look about the same to me, but these are a little more defined. These have a little bit more of a glow to them. These are a little sharper, if you ask me. The Halos rings, there's just more LEDs. I don't see anything too discernible in terms of actual, I like how it's no longer glitched. This thing has been such a pain in the butt, but as you can see, it's a little more defined. Now again, if you have an addressable RGB header, you will be able to get more out of these than I will be able to get out of. This guy is gonna go on the rear fan, and I'm gonna figure out why the controller wasn't working initially. Maybe it was just getting pinched, I don't know. So that's a look at the Halos Lux digital RGB plus the digital starter pack. Again, gives you everything you need to get started. Now, in terms of connecting everything, it's pretty straightforward. There are two little tabs, two little notches on the top of each connector that correspond with slots on the input box. You really can't put it in incorrectly, and then you can just mount the box on the back. The control hub is magnetized, so it will just stick to part of your case. So basically you can mount that control unit wherever you can get the SATA power to, and if you need to use the controller wherever that wants. My cat wants to leave the room. But outside of that, it's pretty straightforward. It works pretty well. I'm gonna retire this ring because it's just weird and doesn't work very well, and I don't have a use for it. I'll just put it away. But I think that's gonna do it for this video. I'm gonna set this up the way I actually want to do it and close up the case for good for now. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments below. It's pretty straightforward stuff. It's not much different from what you saw in the first Halos Lux video. It's just more LEDs. I think they're a little more distinct, and there are some decent effects you can get with the controller, including everybody's favorite pukey RGB effect. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If not, let me know what I could have done differently. I know this isn't the greatest setup of video, but I don't have a real good way to do this in an elegant fashion. I should probably look into some better ways to test these kinds of products. In any case, that's gonna do it. I'll see you in the next one.